The old bookstore smelled of dust and forgotten dreams. Elias, a man whose face mirrored the weathered pages of the volumes he cherished, drifted through the aisles like a ghost. He wasn't looking for a specific book, not anymore. He was searching for himself, lost somewhere between the lines of countless stories. He'd always been a reader, a devourer of words. As a child, he'd escaped the harsh realities of his life, a small, stifling town, a distant father, a mother consumed by her own quiet despair, by immersing himself in fantastical worlds. He'd lived 1,000 lives, fought alongside valiant knights, explored uncharted territories, and loved with a passion that burned brighter than any sun. But somewhere along the way, the lines between reality and fiction blurred. He began to see his own life as a poorly written narrative, a collection of predictable plot points and uninspired characters. He felt like a spectator in his own existence, watching a play unfold without understanding his role. He tried to write his own story, to control the narrative. He pursued a career in journalism, believing he could shape the world with his words. But the news was a relentless tide of tragedies and injustices, and Elias felt like a mere scribe, recording the world's suffering without the power to change it. He tried to find love, to write a romance worthy of the stories he adored. But his relationships were fleeting, marked by a sense of detachment, as if he were observing them from a distance. He couldn't connect, couldn't feel the raw, unfiltered emotions that fueled the characters in his beloved books. One day, he found himself standing in front of a mirror, and he didn't recognize the man staring back at him. The lines etched on his face were not the marks of a life well lived, but the scars of a life unlived. He was a collection of borrowed identities, a patchwork of fictional characters, a hollow shell of a man. He retreated to the bookstore, seeking solace in the familiar scent of old paper and ink. He wandered through the labyrinthine aisles, his fingers tracing the spines of countless books, searching for a clue, a spark, anything that could ignite the embers of his dormant soul. He stumbled upon a dusty volume tucked away in a forgotten corner. It was a collection of short stories, each one a poignant exploration of human experience. He opened the book, and the words leaped off the page, resonating with a raw intensity that pierced his detachment. He read about a woman who found strength in vulnerability, a man who discovered redemption in forgiveness, a child who found hope in the face of despair. He read about the beauty of imperfection, the power of resilience, the transformative nature of love. As he read, a strange thing happened. The stories weren't just words on a page, they were mirrors, reflecting his own experiences, his own struggles, his own hidden desires. He saw himself in the flawed characters, in their moments of doubt, their acts of courage, their quiet acts of kindness. He realized that he wasn't a spectator in his own life, he was a character, imperfect and flawed, but capable of growth and change. He wasn't a collection of borrowed identities, he was a unique individual, shaped by his own experiences, his own choices. He began to see the world with new eyes. The news wasn't just a collection of tragedies, it was a tapestry of human stories, each one deserving of attention, of understanding. He saw the beauty in the ordinary, the extraordinary in the mundane. He started writing again, not as a journalist, but as a storyteller. He wrote about the people he met, the stories he heard, the emotions he felt. He wrote about the beauty and the pain of human existence, the fragility and the resilience of the human spirit. He found love, not in the grand gestures of romantic novels, but in the quiet moments of connection, in the shared laughter, in the comforting silence. He learned that love wasn't about finding a perfect match, but about accepting and embracing the imperfections of another. He looked in the mirror again, and he saw a man who was no longer lost, but found. He saw a man who had embraced his own story, with all its flaws and imperfections. He saw a man who had found himself in the words. He stepped out of the bookstore, into the bustling city street, and he felt a sense of belonging he had never felt before. He was no longer a ghost, drifting through the world, but a character in his own story, a story that was still being written, a story that was his own.